Welcome back once again, dear students. This is Anshu Sharma from Government College Jaksu, and I welcome again students of BA Part Second of English Literature, and this today I am going to do the final paragraph of. Lord Byron's There is a Pleasure in the Pathless Woods. This is the concluding paragraph, the ninth paragraph that you have before your screens. And I will just quickly, in short, remind you of what I had taught in the earlier two videos. Because the last three paragraphs are like kind of tapering off of what Byron is trying to say. He is trying to conclude it, and he becomes autobiographical. He talks about his childhood, he talks about the pleasure that he draws when he is near the ocean, or when he is swimming, or when he is interacting in his solitude with the ocean. And he talks about the pleasure that he derives walking on this pathless wood. Metaphorically, symbolically, I have already explained what he means by the title, what he means to say in the poem. And in the eighth paragraph, I had explained very clearly that the poet is now trying to conclude the poem, and he very clearly, very specifically states that his inspiration, that his ideas are now dimming, they are now coming to an end. His inspiration is coming to an end, the flame of ideas is coming to an end, his thoughts are now becoming sketchier, and therefore he has to finish his song, and only the echo of the song is going to linger on. And here now we have the last paragraph, the ninth paragraph, the ninth verse, and again he gets a little philosophical here, and he, in conclusion, tries to tell, or you can say, he is very humble, and he just wishes that the reader, that the listener of this poem carries something with them, and keeps it safe in their heart forever. That is what every artist or every poet wants, that the public or the people who listen to their songs, who look at their art, carry something with them. They kind of, they wish that their work leaves a permanent imprint or a permanent mark on their hearts, on their minds, and they carry that into the future as well. So this is the same idea, this is the same concept that Byron is also sharing with us in the last paragraph. So, as usual, I shall be quickly reading the verse before I go into the analysis. Now, this last paragraph does have a couple of words which are not very familiar, because these are words which are not very commonly used. I shall just explain those words to you, but let me just first read the poem. Farewell, a word that must be and hath been, a sound which makes us linger, yet farewell. Ye who have traced the pilgrim to the scene, which is his last, if in your memories dwell a thought which once was his, if on ye swell a single recollection, not in vain he wore his sandal shoon and scallop shell. Farewell, with him alone may rest the pain, if such there were, with you the moral of his strain. So, the concluding paragraph begins with the word farewell, and farewell is again kind of, bidding a final goodbye. So here he is, finally wishing his readers a goodbye, and he says, he goes on to even, elaborate a little bit upon this word itself, and he says that farewell is a word which must be. Now, farewell is not only a word, but it is an idea, a concept, a reality which has to happen, and it is something which is undeniable, which is to be accepted. Again, this is something like, you can say it is referring to the concept of birth and death. Whoever comes has to go, whatever begins has to end. So it is like kind of a meeting between the poet and his readers, and this meeting should now come to an end. It is time for the meeting to come to an end, for this interaction to come to an end, and we have to say bye bye, we have to say farewell, and it is unavoidable. It is a given, it is a permanent feature. If, like, for example, even when we go out to meet our friends, we can maybe spend a couple of hours with them, we can spend a day with them, we can spend a few days with them, maybe even months, but finally you have to go back to your own homes. So finally you have to bid farewell, finally you have to say bye bye to your friends, something like that. So farewells are also something which are permanent, something which has to happen, something which cannot be denied, something which has to be accepted. So he says, a word that must be, it is unavoidable, and hath been, has been. It is, the human, it's a convention, or it is a, so it's a given. It is something that has got to come, that has to happen, that people have to part company. Whoever meets has to say farewell finally and go back to their homes. So this has been, it always has been, this has been the trend, this has been the way, and this will be the way in the future as well. And he says, a sound which makes us linger, yet farewell. A sound that makes us linger, because whenever, you must have noticed that when we are saying bye bye to our friends, and we get up to leave, then usually what happens that we start bidding farewell, and we say okay, we'll meet again, and then again you talk a bit, and then you start moving towards the gate, and then what happens, then at the gate also you stop for a little while, and final bidding of farewell also takes some time, it is not abrupt. So it like kind of echoes, the bye bye also echoes, it happens slowly, it is not abrupt. So you move on to the gate, and then you sit in your car or you sit in your scooter, and then again you'll raise your hand, you'll say bye, and you'll smile and you'll wave, and then finally you'll move away. So you linger on in your farewells also. So something like this is happening here. And the poet says that, yet this is something permanent, yet this is something which has to happen, which is unavoidable. Okay, so yet farewell. So finally I am saying farewell to you, ye again, old English, it means you who have traced the pilgrim to the scene. Pilgrim, you have followed. Now Byron is kind of calling himself a pilgrim, because he is taking us through a journey. He himself is journeying, he himself is moving, and he is talking about his journey through the woods. He's talking about the journey through the the ocean, and he says that finally this journey is coming to an end, and now it is time to say farewell, now it is time to say goodbye, and it is unavoidable. Okay, and he says that you have, the readers, you have traced the pilgrim to the scene, which is his last. Okay, now we have actually done that. We have gone through the 9 paragraphs, we've gone through the 8 paragraphs, and we've reached the ninth paragraph. So he says that you have followed him throughout his journey. While he has been talking about his poem, while he has been sharing his ideas, we as readers have been following him, we as readers have been accompanying him. Okay, and he says that now now he has reached the last of his travel. He's reached the end of his travel. And, and he says that if in your memories dwell means to stay, to inhabit, to reside, to remain. So he says, if in your memories. Now, in the beginning, I have explained to you that every artist wants to be remembered. And this same desire is being, shared by Byron also. And he says, whatever experiences I have shared with you, if you carry even some of them in your memory, then I'll be happy. Then it'll be like his work is done. So he says, which you keep in your memories, if you carry in your memories a thought which once was his. Now, this is a very interesting concept. Please try to understand this line. Whatever ideas we have read, this poem we have read, is actually the original idea of Byron. It has taken birth in Byron's mind, in Byron's heart. Okay, so he says, a thought which was once his. So, originally, whom does this poem belong to? Originally, whom do these verses and these words belong to? They belong to Byron. He is the creator of these words. He is the creator of this poem. So these words belong to him. These ideas initially resided in his head. Okay? The words sat in his head, in his mind for some time. He wrote this poem. So, a thought which once was his, if on ye swell. Now, in this case, this ye is us. Okay, this line, a thought which was once was his is reference to Byron, his is referring to the poet. And if on ye swell, ye, now this ye, this you is referring to the reader, this you is us. And swell means to rise with full force. Now this is a very important idea, this is a very important concept. Please understand this. What Byron is trying to say is, what he's trying to convey is that I am the creator. I am the person who has given birth to this poem. I am the person who has given birth to the ideas conveyed in this poem, in these verses. But I would be truly successful only if these ideas are brought to fruition. They become bigger, they swell up, they generate further ideas, they generate further good thoughts, they generate further visualization of what he has dreamt of within us, his readers. Then his poem would be truly successful. That is what he desires, and that is what all the artists desire. That whatever they are trying to convey, whatever they have thought of, whatever ideas they have imagined, they should come to fruition, they should spread, and they should become even bigger when the readers read them or when the readers accept them. Okay, so he wants us to explore these ideas further. He wants us to carry his ideas further, to build upon it further, to make them even more richer than what he has given to us. So, this is his desire, this is his wish. And he says that this was once mine, but now it is yours, and you can expand them further. A single recollection, not in vain he wore his sandal shoon and scallop shell. A single recollection. Now, this is such a very humble way of requesting his reader that I have shared 9 paragraphs. I have shared so many verses. I have shared so many lines, 9 into 9, those many lines I have shared with you. And out of all these ideas, if you remember even one idea, please try to feel what the poet is saying. Please try and understand what he's trying to say. Of all the ideas that he has shared with us, all the concepts, all the imagination, all the dreams that he has talked about in this poem, even if we keep only one, even if we remember only one idea, only one concept, then also his work would be justified. Then also he would consider himself to be a successful poet. Then also it would be enough for him that whatever effort he has put into writing this poem, whatever love he has poured into writing this poem, it would come to fruition. It would be successful if we as readers, only if we remember one single idea, that is enough for the poet. That is enough for Byron. And he says that this pilgrimage that I have done, now this is reference to Childe Harold, okay? Because he is the original inspiration for writing these verses. So he says that Childe Harold's pilgrimage would be successful, it would be fruitful if we carry even single idea in our hearts and minds. So he says, and how does he say it, how does he explain it, that whatever efforts I have put in. Now when you travel, what are you doing? You travel, you wear shoes, and when you walk a lot, those shoes, they become worn, they have a lot of wear and tear. They become absolutely, the soles become torn and they become worn away, they become flat. So that is what he's referring, that whatever traveling I have done, whatever efforts I have put, they would lead to fruition. They would be actually fruitful. They would reach their dream, or whatever ideas that he has tried to talk about, they would be justified if we remember even one single idea out of this whole poem. And he says that his shoes which have become shabby, his shoes which have become torn, his sandals. Now, shoon is, again, this is the word that I was referring to. That shoon is a word which is commonly used in Scotland. Okay, and it is not a very popular English word, it is not commonly used in English, but this is used in Scotland, and this is again an archaic word which has been used here. And he says his worn out sandals, his worn out shoes would be justified, his traveling would be justified if we can carry some little bit from this poem. If some little bit affects us, touches us, moves us, then he is successful. Then he has become successful in writing this poem. Okay, and he says he wore his sandal shoes not in vain, and scallop shell. Scallop shell, this is again reference to shells which are worn by travelers on their hats. You must have seen very often when we go for some pilgrimage or we go on a religious journey, we usually wear a specific something on our, some threads, colorful thread on our wrist, or we wear some in Hindi it is known as taweez. We wear those as a memory, or we on our necks in a black thread, we wear certain things which signifies that we have gone to certain religious places, and we have gone on a pilgrimage, and we have come back. So there were these people who would travel, they would wear shells on their hats, and it indicated that they have gone on a long journey and they have returned. So it was a signifier, it was an indication that these people have gone on a pilgrimage. So he says, my pilgrimage would be truly successful if I have left a mark on my readers. This pilgrimage of a poem, this pilgrimage of writing a poem would be successful, it would bear fruit if my readers are able to carry back even a single idea that I have tried to convey through these words, through these verses. Then he says farewell. Again, there's a repetition of the word farewell. This is again the same idea that you don't just quickly say bye and run away. So it's a long drawn process, it's a gentle process, it's not abruptly, you do not say bye bye and you run away. So it's something like that. is being done here also. He begins the paragraph with farewell. He talks about what farewell is all about, and then again he's repeating the word farewell. So it's like kindly, finally, he's building up the fact that this poem is coming to an end. And he says, farewell, with him alone may rest the pain. Now, him, you can see it has been written in italics because he's talking about, he's referring to the poet, he's referring to himself, and he's trying to say that whatever labor went into writing this poem, whatever pain, whatever effort went into writing this poem, that pain, that effort, that trouble will lie with the poet alone. Okay? That trouble will not be forwarded to the reader. That pain will not be forwarded to the reader. That effort will not be forwarded to the reader. That shall remain with the poet himself. Okay? That will be limited to the poet himself. All the effort, all the midnight lamp burning, all the pain that he may have experienced while he traveled, while he wrote this poem, that all will be restrained or restricted only till the poet. That will not be carried forward to his reader. What will be carried forward to the reader? That will be, if such there were, with you the moral of his strain. So, with the reader, what will be left? You is referring to the reader of the poem. That is us, that is we people. So, he says, with us, the reader, only the moral of the poem should be left. Whatever idea, whatever juice you can say, whatever extract, whatever, the kernel, the central idea, the central theme that the poet is trying to share with us, that concept alone should be residing with the readers. That is what he knows will happen. That is what he expects will happen. Whatever pain, whatever effort has been done is on the part of the poet alone. And that shall not be shared by the readers. What the readers are going to get? They are just going to get the fruit. They are just going to get the sweet fruit of the labor of the poet. Okay? And it's almost like a tree that has been planted by someone, and the tree grows up and the fruit is eaten by the coming generations, the future generations. So by the time a tree, as we all know, that sometimes it takes quite a few years for the tree to become full bloom, to grow up, and it bears fruit after maybe 10 or 15 years. So it is the next generation that is going to eat those fruits, enjoy those fruits, enjoy the sweet fruit. So something like that. The poet says the effort is all on the part of the poet, and the fruit, the sweetness, the music, the beauty, all that will be experienced by the readers. That is for the readers to find joy in, to find happiness in. So he concludes in this way, and he says that with you, the reader, the moral of the story will be left of this song. This song, this strain is meaning the poem, the song, and he says that you have been my co-traveler, because actually we have been his co-traveler. Now, please try and understand, when Byron wrote this poem, we were not there with him. Okay? When Byron was burning the midnight lamp and he was working late into the night, we were not there with him. When he was filling his ink pen with fresh ink, we were not there with him. When he was writing on the paper or his book or his copy, we were not there with him. Okay, when he was playing with the ideas, he was struggling with the ideas. Maybe sometimes the inspiration was there, maybe sometimes the inspiration was lacking. He had to redo, he had to rewrite. So a lot of effort must have gone into penning these verses, but we were not there with him, right? So the labor, all of it belongs to the poet, and the result belongs to the readers. So here we are listening to the poem, we are reading the poem, we are enjoying the poem. So the fruit of labor, who's actually enjoying the fruit of labor? Us, we, the readers. We are enjoying the labor of the poem, we are enjoying the labor of the poet, and we are enjoying the fruit. We have finally got this poem in its complete form. We have these nine verses, the ideas have been beautifully conveyed, and the concept that the poet is trying to share with us is very clear. Okay, very lucidly, very clearly, very beautifully, by using so many metaphors, by using biblical references, by using very poetic language. The poet has conveyed very beautiful ideas to us. So we are enjoying it. We are enjoying reading the poem. And we had not to put any kind of effort to actually write this poem. So the poem, the effort, the labor was all Lord Byron's. So that belongs to him. The effort was done by him, but who's enjoying the fruit? We as readers. And this is what the poet ultimately hopes for, that even if out of these nine verses, out of these so many ideas that he's shared with us, even if we remember one single idea, then all the effort that he has put, all the labor that he has put will not go waste. He feels that he will get his reward, or you can say this is his reward. If we remember a single idea of his poem, single idea that he's been trying to convey, then that would be a reward for him, and he would be satisfied with that. So you can say a very humble request it is on the part of the poet, that I have put in a lot of labor, I have put in a lot of effort, it is my child, or you can say it is something very close to my heart, and it is something which really liberates me. It is a beautiful experience that I've had, and it is the same beauty, the same joy that I'm here sharing with you. And if you remember my verses, if you remember my poem, it would be like kind of indirectly remembering me, and that would be enough. That would be, reward enough for me, prize enough for me, and I would be happy. I would die a happy man, as they say. So, this is the conclusion of the poem, a very long poem. I hope you all enjoyed reading the poem, and some of the ideas are clear to you. And just as Byron has wished that we remember some ideas, I hope you will also carry this poem. It will linger in your hearts, and well, it has to linger in your hearts, because this is going to be part of your examination. You'll have to write your paper, so you better remember all the ideas. As students, you have to remember the whole poem, not one single idea, but you have to remember the whole poem. You have to remember all the nine verses and what Byron has talked about. You have to remember it fully. As of now, you have to remember fully, because you'll have to write your exam. Okay, so my dear students, I now bid farewell. I bid bye bye to you. I bid final farewell to you. This poem comes to an end. I hope it is clear. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed teaching it. So, bye bye. See you again. Farewell.